Well, draft season is officially in the rear view mirror, but it's never officially over. It's always draft season with our friends from the Draft Network. How about our guy Damian Parson, full-time Dame? Love to get him on the program of PHNX Cardinals. Full-time Dame. Dame, how we doing, my man?
I'm doing good, man. You know what I mean? It's beautiful weather out. It's hot and sunny. You know what I mean? So the draft is quote unquote over, but it's a good time. It's a good time to be alive, man.
It absolutely is. Starting to kind of get our first views of the Arizona Cardinals 12-player draft class, and it's fun to see that number 18 out there on the same field with Kyler Murray, Michael Wilson, James Conner, and crew. What were your, main takeaways from the Cardinals 2024 class?
One of my biggest takeaways is that they prioritize getting tougher and being more physical, just across the board. Of course, a lot of the talk was, the Vikings maybe trading up to 4, giving you the 2 firsts and all that good stuff. But if you check any of my mock drafts, the entire 2024 cycle, I never moved the Cardinals. I always had them selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. So getting an elite, to me, the best wide receiver in the class to pair with Kyler Murray, that's what you do. Because if you're for Monty Austin, for Jonathan Gannon, for Drew P at OC, to say that you believe in Kyler and then trade all the way back outside of the top 10 and miss out on Marv, Malik, and Rome, that's counterintuitive. So I love the fact they went and got, was able to get Marv, but then getting Darius Robinson in the back end of the first, talking about physicality personified. This young man in 2022 played defensive tackle at over 300 pounds for the Missouri Tigers. They needed him to kick down the edge. He dropped down to 285. So it just shows first of all, the team first mentality, the coachability aspect of what he brings to the table, but then also the ability to play multiple positions at different weights and never look like he never looked out of shape. If you look at his 2022 tape at the tackle, he looked good. You saw him, at 285, 290. He just is a brick house. And this is a strong, long-armed, physical guy that can rush off the edge. But I think his main play and mainstay will be third downs, attacking the interior offensive lineman. When you have 34, 35-inch arms, and when you have that type of power, you can walk those shorter arm interior offensive lineman back, because I always compare O-line, D-line exchange to boxing. The reach advantage always typically wins out, especially if you know how to punch and when to punch. So, going and getting Max Melton, the guy that I absolutely love, a guy that battled Marv in the Big Ten for a couple years, and a guy that knows how to play press man coverage. He can play zone. He's physical, instinctive, and I think that this is the type of guy that, at the end of the day, this is one of those corners that you need, because I look at Keetra Clark and Garrett Williams is more of the nickel dime inside corners, where you bring a little bit more size, strength, and physicality at the point of attack with a guy like Max Melton. Love the Tip Raymond addition, because, he wasn't the most refined pass catching tight end coming into this draft, but the run blocking. And for Drew P, who wants to run the football, right, with James Conner, and we're getting to Trey Benson in a second, adding another tight end where you can go to 12 personnel. And truthfully, I wouldn't be surprised to see them go some 13 personnel, because you have Elijah Higgins, as another who's a wide receiver convert to tight end, who is still learning the position in terms of blocking and what type of blocker he can be with his body type, his strength, and everything else. But he's also a receiver at heart and in his true skill set. So being able to go to 13, run the ball, kind of get into some no-huddle situations. If you can get the defense into a set that you really want them into, a heavy set, then you can go empty. You can spread them out. I remember watching Tom Brady do that many times in New England, where their run game's going. They get, I see something I like here. Let's keep the ball rolling. Let's not huddle. Let's keep it going, and let's wear these guys down, force them to either make a stop or call a timeout and burn a timeout, right? To manage the clock and getting fresh legs on the field, things of that nature. I could see them doing that as well. But going out of 12, where you have Trey McBride, who I think this year coming into 2024, I think 2024 is going to be the year where he's going to take that step into that next tier of tight ends under the Travis Kelce's, the George Kittles, and Mark Andrews. He's so talented. I was concerned a little bit when I saw him at the Senior Bowl. I said, man, he just kind of looks a little stiff to me. He doesn't create separation, but I was like, he's catching everything that throw to him. I was like,
Mhm.
even with guys in his hip pocket, he's still making these grabs. And then you saw what he was able to do last year, being able to work from inline, also work into the slot, and the yards after catch ability that he brought to this offense, the toughness, the grit, the contested catch ability, everything. So Tip Raymond being able to come in, and if he gets that tight end 2 role, you can go into some 12 personnel sets, run the ball, and then also allow you to detach Trey McBride as a big slot, a power slot, and make it look like it's 11 personnel, because you still have Tip Raymond as the inline tight end, and he just replaces Trey McBride in that way. I love that selection as well. Overall, I look at what they were able to do, getting Trey Benson. James Conner's, I think this is last year on this deal, right? He's over, a little over 30. So, end of the day, or around 30,
29,
how that, 29. So, like, he's a physical downhill runner who's taking a lot of hits to his frame. And whether not saying you don't resign him, but he's probably not going to cash out the way he would if he was 26, 27 years old, possibly. So you prepare yourself for the future, but you prepare yourself with a guy that can step into that same role. Trey Benson is a physical running back, but he's a physical running back that runs a 4.39 in the 40. So he has breakaway speed. He also has return ability. So you see the kind of spatial awareness, the ability to make guys miss. And then once he hits that straightaway, it's typically a house call, because it's hard to catch a guy that runs sub 4.4. And then he catches a ball, and this is probably one of the most underrated aspects of his game. He catches the ball out of the backfield very well, tracking the ball downfield, running wheel and rail routes in concepts at Florida State, tracking it like a receiver. He catches it with his hands. And this is just a young man. I think that he could still have a nice role in keeping James Conner, fresh during the season. But, man, when he gets that starting role, whenever James Conner does walk away due to his contract situation, I think that the Cardinals found a very good replacement and heir to the throne, in a sense, at the RB1 spot.
Yeah, it's what good organizations do. They prepare for the future, and just no disrespect to James Conner, who's beloved within the organization, starting at the head coach position in Jonathan Gannon. I mean, but the reality is, you hit a certain age at that position, and production falls off a cliff. And so, preparing for the future, it's what organizations did. They had 4 third-round picks in this draft, and using 66th overall, and Trey Benson. It's tough to disagree with that, because come 2025, Dame, like what you're saying is, he could be that RB1, and it could be real easy transition there. So I want to get back to Marvel a little bit, because we talk about an offense, as you said, with Petzing, that loves to establish and emphasize the run game. And they tripled down on it, because of they drafted the best blocking tight end in Tip Ryman out of Illinois. They've already, Paris Johnson, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, making the transition to left tackle, but was a great run grader on the right side with Will Hernandez. This is a team that is bullish as far as how it runs the football. What is that going to do? Because when you start to look at these eye-popping wide receiver rookie numbers from Jamar Chase to Justin Jefferson, I think the only thing that's going to hold Marv back from getting into that stratosphere is just the scheme. And I think it's going to benefit. It's going to be more quality over quantity. How does Marvin Harrison benefit from this offensive scheme from Petzing and crew?
Man, one thing the run game does, it makes you, as a defense, I always talk about it, changing the levers. It's like pulling a lever. It pulls the safety down. So instead of seeing too high, middle of the field open, you're going to get one high. You're going to get some more loaded fronts, because at the same time, as was the same thing we talk about with Lamar Jackson, right? You got Derrick Henry back there with him now, but typically Lamar Jackson's running ability always forced the extra defender closer to the line of scrimmage. Well, Kyler can do the exact same thing with his ability to run the QB option, and the read option plays, and to read that backside in. All right, if he crashes down on James, I'm pulling that ball from his stomach, and I'm taking the edge, right? And I'm going to get 7, 10, 12 yards first down. And when you start doing things like that with this run game, especially when it's physical, because at the end of the day, the highlights are great, right? Watching guys break, long runs and long passes. But then when you have a physical run game, it's all about opposing your will against another man. And when you're able to take your will and make it superior to your opponent, and you're just running the ball, and in your division, you've seen that with the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy is a fine quarterback. He's a good quarterback, right? Especially for them. But the straw that stirs that drink, the engine of that team or that offense is Christian McCaffrey. And that's the guy that teams walk in and say, we got to stop him. And it's because of what he does in the run game. So when you run the ball with James Conner, he's getting 4 or 5 yards a pop. Now that safety starts walking down, defensive coordinators are, we got to load the box up a little bit. What does that do? That puts that single high that gives Marv one-on-one. And when you have a guy, and this is one of my favorite things that I use to explain Marv as a prospect. Like, yeah, he's a college player, just like Rome, just like Malik. He was already a professional wide receiver. And what I mean by that is he saw heavy amounts of double coverage. And he knew how to beat double coverage, brackets, high-low brackets, 2-man under, 2-man trail, different things like that. He understood linebackers dropping off to take away slant routes. He understood how to handle those because he's seen them already. Now, if you give him one-on-ones and you're telling him, hey, run that comeback route, run that go route, that post pattern, that double move, whatever route you call for him, Kyler's going to be the infamous smile when he looked at DeAndre Hopkins down the field a couple years ago. Right. I expect to see some of those if you are able to get this run game going early and often in the season and in games to where defenses have to respect it, and not just respect it, but adjust to it. And it makes them vulnerable in the back end because unless you're walking around with an elite caliber corner that can just walk up and you feel comfortable with him on the island to stop a Marvin Harrison Jr., if you're unable to do that, if you can't stop the run and then Marv starts going off in one-on-one, now you're in a very tough position as a defense because that conundrum of who do we take away? Like, do you want them to run the ball for first downs over and over again? Or do we go single high one-on-one and then let Marv go for 200? Like, you got to pick your poison. And that's what I'm excited about because with a quarterback like Kyler and then his playmaking ability, I absolutely love the potential what him and Marvin Harrison are going to be able to do because he's going to give Marv those same throws he gave DeAndre Hopkins, those back shoulder fades, those 50-50 trust balls that he's going to turn into 80-20. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's exciting. The season can't get here soon enough, and I can't remember, Dame, really the last time the Cardinals had a pick your poison type offense. It's always been maybe kind of a heavier passing attack, even back to the Kurt Warner days. You know, you had those 3,000-yard receivers with Fitz and Anquan Bolden and Steve Breston, but now you truly have, you know, that ability to kind of play some bully ball in the run game and also throw the ball and take the top off the defense. That all being said, when Kyler Murray returned last year for 8 games, this was a top 10 offense. So you had Marvin Harrison Jr. to this offense. What do you think the ceiling is for the Cardinals offense in 2024?
I think top 15 at minimum. I think with the run game and then having him, I really like Greg Dortch in the slot. Of course, love Trey McBride. And bringing Zay Jones, the veteran wide receiver, another big body, speed guy, threat off the perimeter, a guy that played good ball in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. And then if Michael Wilson can stay healthy to be another big body, route running, body positioning wide receiver too, that's a great feel for Kyler Murray breaking the huddle in moments where you have to throw the ball, where the defense knows there's no run threat. You got to throw it. It's 4th and 12, game on the line. Can you make the play? And you have to drop back. When you can walk out there with those type of weapons, you feel good about that because you got guys that can win in a multitude of ways, whether with route running, body control, high pointing, speed, whatever it is. And I think this offense, being balanced as I expect them to be, I think that they should be no worse than top 15. I think they could be. We could see them in the top 12 range, especially the defense is going to play a big part in that, you know, being able to keep games close for them and not have them, you know, have to break away from their identity. From the looks of what we saw last year with with Petsy, like I think he wants to be balanced throughout the entire season, right? Not just put too much on your quarterback, not put too much on the run game. Let's give you a heavy dose of both, and you just pick your poison per game, which one you want to stop, and we can adjust instead of being like Cliff Kingsbury, where it was a lot of hey, I'm going to throw the ball 70 times a game. I'm going to put my quarterback in disadvantageous opportunities and compromising situations. I think that Drew is going to make sure everybody is in the right spot, and as long as the defense does their job, I think this offense can hum.
Yeah. I agree. And like there was a misconception on misconception with Kingsbury is like you thought with the air raid offense that they wouldn't be very well geared towards running the football, but they had a successful run game because
Yeah.
never faced any stacked boxes. Like every defense was prepared for them to throw the football. And yeah, like James Conner had an incredible, what was it, the 2021 season where he had 18 total touchdowns. But, that was a product of defenses gearing up for the pass, and they were able to take away some of the passing game. One last question about this offense, and I want to get this defense, and then we'll get you out of here. Very generous with your time.
Sure.
As far as Paris Johnson Jr. making the transition from the right tackle to the left tackle, he played it at Ohio State, played very well every single snap of his rookie year. He played at right tackle. What do you see from Paris taking over the franchise tackle spot here for the Arizona Cardinals going forward?
I think it gets him back to his roots, gets him back to the spot that got him drafted top 10, right? That left side. He's an athletic, physically gifted and toolsy tackle where he has that franchise capability, that franchise tackle capability, strength. Like you said, he was really good in the run game over there with Will Hernandez. I saw the quote with Will was like, "Yeah, I'm sad my guy's gone because he's going over to the left side." And I was like, "Yeah, those two were a devastating duo in terms of moving bodies off the ball." And you hope the same thing will be able to transition over to the left side with him, and I think it's Elijah Wilkinson if he's going to be the starting guard on the left side. But I think Paris, the main thing is getting back to it's being ambidextrous, right? Like we on the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, me and my co-host Keith always talk about. We actually had an offensive line trainer on the show during the draft cycle, and it's like comparing flipping from left to right, like right changing to the other hand and writing. So if you're right-handed, if you're right hand dominant and you write everything with your right hand, now try doing it with your left. It takes a little. You might be able to master it if you're patient enough, right? Like you might be able to figure it out and get comfortable, but there's muscle memory. And for Paris, just getting that muscle memory back down of kick sliding with the left foot, back and angle 45-degree angle sets, to the left hip instead of opening the right hip immediately. Just getting that muscle memory back down for him. And once he gets that level of comfort back to where we saw him at Ohio State, I think he's going to be just fine. And I love the fact that bringing in Jonah Williams and then drafting a guy that I didn't expect him to go as late as he did, but Christian Jones, I think that was a great grab, in terms of draft and stash, because he can learn from Jonah in terms of playing the tackle spot as an NFL tackle. And this was a guy that is absolutely going to fit this offense because he's physical at the point of attack. He wants to move people off the ball in the run game. And so whenever Jonah does take that step away from this team after his contract, you have a guy that you can kind of pigeonhole, like, hey, pencil in, he's probably going to be our next right tackle in the next 2 years.
Yeah, and Christian Jones already endearing himself to the locker room, already a fan favorite, or actually just his teammates love him already, coming over from Texas in the 5th round, as you mentioned, slip because just a deep class overall at tackle. Now, we were talking a little bit off air how the pendulum's going to swing next year more toward a defensive draft, but the Arizona Cardinals in the 1st round, their second first-round pick, take Darius Robinson. You gave us some great insight as far as D-Rob, and then Max Melton. You think, those guys stepping in immediately, especially Robinson with the additions of Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols on this defensive line, probably the worst position group in all of the NFL last year was the Cardinals defensive line. Did they do enough, in your opinion, to play complementary football with that offense that should be humming at times this upcoming season to where the defense can do enough to win some football games?
I think so. I like the collection of talent that they have now. Also bringing in with Miles Murphy, the big defensive tackle from North Carolina. They have Dante Stills and everything. And I like what they have. Still have Cam Thomas and Xavier Collins. So it's a lot of mix and match that you can do. Victor Dimukeji still there. Dennis Gardeck, both those guys on expiring deals. And then getting one of my guys who I think could be a potential steal in terms of that fastball off the edge. Xavier Thomas, getting him on day 3. When you have BJ Ojulari, who I think a lot of us are expecting to take that next step as that true edge rusher for them, that number one type of guy off the edges, like bringing Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones and having the guys they have on this interior defensive line. Now the big thing is, hey, since you've improved it, let's stop this run game. Let's stop. It's hard to say stop Christian McCaffrey. Let's slow him down. Let's slow CMC down. Let's slow down that two-headed monster in Seattle with Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet. Let's slow down Kyron Williams when he's back and Blake Corum, right? And let's force these teams to play left-handed. Let's force them to play handicap where we know you're going to throw the ball. So now we're prepared for that, right? And I do like what they were able to do in this front seven. Really like what Kaiser White was able to bring last year, but also Mac Wilson Sr. And I want to see, especially this preseason, Owen Popo out of Auburn, a very explosive athlete, from out of Auburn, out of the SEC. See what he brings to the table in year two as a defensive player. And then, at the end of the day, the secondary, I really like the Elijah Jones pick that they got. Another tall, long-armed, athletic kid. He came out to the Senior Bowl and was lights out in coverage. Yeah. I loved what I saw from him at the Senior Bowl. But underrated signing to me was the Sean Murphy Bunting one, a guy that could play outside corner, who's a veteran. He's well tested. Bring some leadership to this is a young, defensive back room. You know what I mean? Besides when you look at, of course, Buda Baker and, Jalen Thompson and everything. But this is a young group. So bringing in that voice, another veteran voice to kind of help echo the sentiments of your two safeties, that's going to be very big. So I think this defensive line improved. I don't expect them to have the type of struggles they had last year on the D line. And now it's all about just Jonathan Gannon figuring out where he wants to put guys and what's the most advantageous position for him, especially when you think about pass rushing. You want BJ Ojulari coming off one edge, but who do you want coming off the other? Do you want it to be Dennis Gardeck? Do you want it to be Xavier Thomas? Do you want to give Cam Thomas some reps as a more power pusher than a true speed rusher? So he's kind of have a lot of different archetypes and skill sets that he, as the defensive mind and coach, just has to figure out who do we want 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. We got Brock Purdy sitting back there. Who can get back there and move him off his spot, make him feel uncomfortable? Right. Who can make Matthew Stafford hear footsteps, right? The wily vet. Who can get into the head of Geno Smith for 4 quarters on 3rd downs? Who's that guy that offensive line tackles say to themselves, all right, I got to keep him out the backfield. Who's that other guy opposite of BJ Ojulari who we're hoping to see take that next step forward?
Absolutely. Your colleague over there, Justin, at the Draft Network, did a good write-up on Zaven Collins. And this is a huge year for him to extend his career as he's entering the 2nd season as a pass rush. And I like it. It is a diverse group, different skill sets, different just body types, and athleticism coming at you from a deep group. But somebody's got to emerge, including BJ Ojulari, the former 2nd-round pick. Just unbelievable insight on the Arizona Cardinals 2024 class and this team going into the 2024 season. Follow him on Twitter at @DP_NFL. Read his work, the Draft Network, full-time Damian Parson. Always fun to catch up, man. Thanks for your time.
Anytime, bro.